You remember that Will Smith song, Will 2K? It was like, now we gonna party like it's 9-9. Hold up, it is. But it's 1999 we're talking about this episode, but it's also 9-9.
Oh.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast, where we discuss the world of film from a fresh angle. And now your host, Robert Yaniz Jr.
Welcome to the Crooked Table Podcast. This is Rob. On this show, we democratize the film criticism conversation by bringing on fans and critics alike to dig into their personal connection to a current or classic release. Normally. However, this is actually a sequel to an episode we did last July in which my returning guest and I, who I'll get to in a second, talked about our top 5 films of 1998. Obviously, 1998 was late 90s. We were both in high school, so there was a lot of films kind of floating in the ether, and last year being 20 years since 1998, we figured might as well let's talk about movies like The Mask of Zorro and Can Hardly Wait, and I don't remember what else was in there. Do you recall, lady who hasn't been named yet?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's been over a year since we talked about 1998. So this year, if you've been following the Crooked Table Podcast at all, we've obviously had sort of a side quest to cover as many 1999 movies as possible. Of course, 1999 was a huge pivotal year, often heralded one of the most important years in cinema in general. And we're not going to quite get into the level of friend of the show, Michael Dennison's 1999 from 99 podcast, or the level of the book I'm currently reading, Best Movie Year Ever, How 1999 Blew Up the Big Screen by Brian Raftery. However, my guest, Kai Yaniz, and I will be talking about our top 5 favorite movies of 1999. So before we get to that, and I want to stress favorite, not best. I feel like best is a little bit of a presumptuous word that a lot of critics like to use. When like, this is the best film of the year. I'm like, is it though? It's art. Everything's subjective. It's like what you see is the best might to me be a piece of shit. So I don't. Whenever I post like,
don't get Rob started in 2018 Oscar. No.
Oh God, come on, Green Book, what's up? But yeah, so I always like to lean more towards favorite because it implies a certain subjectivism. So I might not even name your favorite movie on this episode, and I might love a movie that you think is complete garbage. So without any further build-up, Kai Yaniz, welcome back to the Crooked Table Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's always my pleasure to be on the show.
So the last time we had you on, we were talking about Avengers Endgame, and I still, as my wife, you know this, I still haven't stopped talking about Avengers Endgame, and now we're in September.
It's true. Listeners, Rob loves Avengers Endgame, and yeah, it doesn't stop. But it's just kind of par for course. We've only seen it, 4 times?
I saw 3 in theaters, and then once on Blu-ray, and then the commentary. So I guess 5 altogether. And then YouTube, like a 400 Watch Mojo videos and things like that about Avengers Endgame, the things you miss. I'm like, I didn't miss any of these, but I'll watch it with you again, and I'll get emotional every time you show me anything with Captain America, basically.
And you have your list.
I have a list. So okay, Kai's like tipping my hat a little, like tipping my whatever the phrase is. I can't. Again, just like the Avengers Endgame episode, we do have a bottle of wine here. So thank you to Hope's End and your red blend, which rhymes. I don't know if that was intentional. Your wine from South Australia, we're enjoying a bottle of that, which is actually pretty good while we do this episode. But I did watch Avengers Endgame on Blu-ray and took notes of all the times I got like the feels, like whether that's emotional or sad or just like, happy, like kind of thing. The ending especially always, like I always sit there for like a minute after, be like, it's just so beautiful.
Unlike my end of the podcast about the
that was like,
Endgame.
yeah. So if you want to hear Kai cry over how perfect the end of Captain America's story is in Avengers Endgame, you listen to that episode. But no, I am kind of toying with the idea, and I don't want to, it feels so basic to say that Avengers Endgame is my favorite movie of the year, because it's the highest grossing movie of all time worldwide, not adjusted for inflation, obviously. But I don't know, it hits me in a really emotional place. Yes, it's a huge superhero movie, but I feel like there are a lot of small character beats and moments that I want to highlight. And so I am toying with the idea of doing a feature of like the best moments or the most powerful emotional moments or however, but I don't want to do it now because I don't
You
want
can't
to
say best. It'd be your favorite.
yeah. Most powerful, whatever. And everything's subjective. It would obviously be a super opinion feature piece. But if you're also listening to this and you want to hear my thoughts on other 2019 movies, every day this month I'm doing a review. Sometimes I'm a day or so behind, but I'm posting 30 reviews in September for 30 movies that came out in 2019 that I haven't covered. So if I talked about it on a podcast, so Avengers Endgame, obviously not going to be one of those 30 reviews. If I posted a review on it separately, like I did a review on Us, I did a review on Glass, things like that, those will not be counted. But 30 movies that I haven't really put my thoughts out there on, just to kind of catch up with some of the movies coming out this year. September's usually sort of a slow month at the box office, minus, I guess, It Chapter 2, which is coming out this weekend. And Ad Astra, which is a big movie starring Brad Pitt that's coming out that a lot of people are looking forward to. I guess The Goldfinch. There's like 2 or 3 real big movies.
The Goldfinch is out this month?
Yeah, September, like in a week or 2, I think. I actually got the screening invite for that, but I think it's like very soon, and I think we have plans or something. So keep an eye out for that on crookedtable.com. But without any further build up, did you have anything you wanted to talk about? Catch up stuff since last episode? It's been a few months for you. Anything you want to promote? Tell people about who you are and what's going on in case this is their first time hearing your voice.
So I am Rob's wife, for those of you that do not know. I've been on quite a few of these over the years. And so really just kind of promoting similar things from before. I self-published an ebook last March called Becoming Version 2.0, which is about my experiences traveling through China and Australia and how it enhanced my life. And that was 9 years ago now that I left for China and started that transformative journey. I also have a YouTube channel that I just call it Be Bold, Be Brave, which is about just kind of trying to inspire people every day and acting in courageously. And so it's just like my little inspirational tips every week that I put out there. I also have a website, bebold-bebrave.com, that has my book on there. It has all my videos on there, some affiliate sites on there. And it's all about me and being bold and brave. And I'm just trying to get my name out there, but on a couple other podcasts, talking about my book and telling more of a story about me, Kai. And that's really the big stuff.
You're also currently available to talk on podcasts, to do speaking engagements, especially in the obviously in the Tampa Bay area. If anybody listening to this is in Florida or in Tampa Bay specifically, and where can people reach you if they want to find out more information about that?
They can reach me at the website bebold-bebrave.com. You can also reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, I'm on there, LinkedIn, and Twitter. I do have a couple Twitter handles, and there's one that I kind of need to promote more, which is the letter B bold and the letter B brave 1. Twitter. The other original one was taken.
I was going to say.
But I'm still number 1.
Exactly. Yeah, you're Be Bold, Be Brave 1. So cool. You're also it also makes me think of that Jodie Foster movie, The Brave One. So you're Be Bold, Brave 1.
That's right.
You're the brave
there
one.
You go. That's a mnemonic device right there. Thank you very much, Rob.
You're very welcome. So moving into our top movies of 1999. And we sort of mentioned this briefly last year on the 1998 episode that we were both in high school. I think in 1999 we were
still in high school.
Middle of our sophomore year when 99 started.
Yep.
Going into junior year by the end, obviously.
It makes it so much easier that you have the same age as me. So
I know.
We just trust
what
Rob says.
We to prepare for this episode, we listened to a little bit of the beginning of last year's 98 episode. Like, oh yeah, we're okay. Let's not tread 100% the same ground, but let's at least
let's not be a live action Disney remake.
Oh God, yeah. There's been so many of those already. It's like 4 or 5 of them this year. It's crazy. But yeah. So 1999, we were both in high school, and we should also stress that the movies we're talking about, we didn't see them all in 1999. In fact, I probably saw, not as many as I would prefer.
I'm much worse.
Yeah, you're much worse. So we haven't seen it. We still haven't seen everything. Are there any movies specifically from 1999, like super noteworthy ones that you haven't seen that you wanted to be like, hey, disclaimer, I didn't see this. Don't get mad at me if it doesn't show up.
Oh gosh,
Because I have a couple.
I looked at the list a couple of times, and I mean, I think if I look at the cover of that book, that would probably help me. I didn't see Boys Don't Cry.
I haven't seen. Okay. So let me do mine, and then you'll probably have the same, and then more. I still haven't seen the Blair Witch Project, which is a very bad blind spot. It just didn't look good to me. Didn't look interesting to me.
And it doesn't help that I confirmed that.
Yeah, you saw it though.
I did.
I haven't seen
in a $3 movie theater.
Well, counts. You still saw it. I haven't seen Rushmore, and I haven't seen what's the other really? Oh, The Talented Mr. Ripley. I think those are the.
Yep, same.
Those are the really like blind, really bad ones for me.
And the thing is, The Talented Mr. Ripley, we can't find it.
No, I know. Did they have it at the library at least? And that's the thing that like at least two of those movies. I didn't check Boys Don't Cry, but the other two are not on Amazon Prime and they're not on Netflix, and they weren't available through the the library's digital service or whatever that we Hoopla, which I mentioned with I think with Michael Deniston again when we talked about The Station Agent. I happened to find that on Hoopla, so it was really easy to just borrow it from the library. But yeah, so I think it's important to mention the movies we haven't seen. I also haven't seen films like Election and The Insider and something else that's on the tip of my head.
That's right. I kept thinking for some reason that Election you saw it but you didn't like it.
I saw it and it was okay. I don't know. I didn't love it, but I also have grown a lot as a moviegoer, as a student of pop culture, as a cinephile in the last 18 years
career,
in the last, and I don't even remember when I saw it. It was probably early 2000s. I didn't see that.
I actually didn't see it until 2004.
Yeah, it might have been around there.
So I haven't seen Eyes Wide Shut.
Which an episode will be coming on that, just to tease that.
And I haven't seen. I'm looking at the cover of this book. The Virgin Suicides is on here.
I saw that.
Or Run Lola Run. And Being John Malkovich. I think those are the main one. What's the frog again?
Oh, that's Magnolia, which
Magnolia.
I didn't even consider for this list because technically its main theatrical release was in 2000. But I think the Brian Raftery of this best movie year ever book, I think he's kind of squeezing it in there because it debuted like in the festival circuits and things like that at the end of 99. Oh. So technically, I think it's technically a 99 movie, but like barely. So I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna even consider that for this. Plus, I have a very touchy relationship with Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, I appreciate his movies, but I'm not like lavishing praise on Phantom Thread like so many other people are and things like that. So I will also have an episode coming up in the next couple of months on Punch Drunk Love, another Paul Thomas Anderson movie. So
it's the Academy really likes Paul Thomas Anderson, don't they?
Yeah, he's a There Will Be Blood guy.
And he's with Fiona Apple?
I don't know, maybe. You would know more about that than I would, the celebrity side of things.
That's my celebrity.
I know some, but not as much as you do. So I guess to jump right into our list then from that point on, again, these are our favorites, not necessarily the best.
And some of them may be the best.
To us, they're the best. You got very defensive.
No, because maybe
hey, Rob, don't tell me it's not.
Maybe
the
they're
best.
considered the best to others as well.
So I'll let you ladies first start with number 5 on your list.
Okay, number 5. So number 5, I kind of actually swapped it out for another movie, but I'm going to say Sleepy Hollow. So I saw very few movies in 1999, and I think the reason that I didn't is because in 1999, I was in kind of an upheaval of my life. In July of that year, that's when me and my mom moved to Melbourne. So I left
Florida, not Australia.
Not
nearly as cool as it sounds.
I was living in Orlando for a long time, and I was going to see some of these 1998 movies with my friends. And then in 1990, like halfway through the year 1999, I then moved. So I didn't have any friends, and my mom was working, and I didn't have any means. I didn't have transportation to get to movies. So I actually, I think, watched a lot of these movies when I worked at Blockbuster, because every week, as an employee of Blockbuster, you got to check out 5 movies. It can be new releases, it could be old movies, it didn't matter. But it was 5 free movies a week. Mm-hmm. So Sleepy Hollow was one of the ones that I was actually excited about, and I wanted to I made like the effort to actually go. And if I recall, that was what, March 1999.
I feel like that was almost a fall movie. I feel like that was like late summer, early fall.
Oh
I
yeah,
can
maybe
check
it
on
was. And I
can check on that.
And I had a crush on Johnny Depp. So around those, for a couple of years, I was seeing every single Johnny Depp movie, and that one was getting a lot of attention in the entertainment news. And Christina Ricci was she had been acting since she was 9, but she was starting to get more attention. And so it just, Sleepy Hollow movie was a big deal, and it looked interesting. So I made efforts to actually go see that. So I did see Sleepy Hollow in the movie theater, and it was, because it's right. I think it came out around Halloween.
November 19th, 1999.
Yeah,
Actually,
okay.
like Thanksgiving, fall.
I don't even remember who I saw that movie with, because I didn't have really friends yet. And I don't know, maybe I did see it with my mom, or maybe I saw it with my sister. But yeah, so that was just kind of one that I made intentions to go see, and it was interesting. Like the cinematography was cool, and Tim Burton wasn't like he wasn't a hack yet.
I mean, to be honest, neither was Johnny Depp.
Right, exactly. They've made each other very hacky through the years. But and I just think it was a really gothically beautiful movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, it won the Oscar for Best Art Direction that year too. So it was, and that a lot of Tim Burton's films have been gotten that kind of attention for the visual style and it's also probably one of Tim Burton's most violent movies. Mm-hmm. But it's also,
I was gonna say it's grotesque.
But it's not though, because it's like super stylized. Like the horseman cuts off a head and it spins around on the person's neck before it falls over. Things like that. So it's so stylized and almost kind of comic booky in a way. And it's got a great, it was the kind of progenitor in a way to Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow character, in that it was him bringing it proved what he could bring by having a completely different take on what you would consider the like romantic hero. Mm-hmm. In that movie, he's like scared at like the sight of blood, and he's like very skittish and like hesitant. So it's almost Ichabod Crane really growing into his role as a detective and overcoming his like hesitation with the supernatural forces that's dealing with.
And also with Sleepy Hollow, I kind of feel like the movie From Hell is similar to Sleepy Hollow,
which was a couple years later. Yeah,
and that one was really gross. But and I keep thinking it feels like a Tim Burton movie, but it's not. But that was like From Hell seems like Sleepy Hollow, like a sequel to Sleepy Hollow.
I think From Hell actually is based on a comic book, which is funny.
But it's about Jack the Ripper, who was a real guy.
I know.
And wasn't Sleepy Hollow?
That's based on a Washington Irving, short story or whatever back in the day, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow.
And they have Sleepy Hollow in New York, don't they?
Yeah. There's a small. That's where the movie's set. So no, that's a really good pick. That was definitely an honorable mention for me. We'll mention more of our honorable mentions at the end of the episode, but that was definitely one I was going to mention had it not been on your list. And I suspect that we're not really going to have any overlap with our top fives, which is interesting. That I did like last time we had maybe one overlapping or something. I don't even
remember which one
we have very similar but different taste in film, which is I think is interesting. Like I appreciate your movies and you appreciate my movies, but we also gravitate towards different kinds of movies, which is why it's always fun to watch films together, because we both have such different takes on them. So
and I just trust your opinion.
Oh, thanks.
Like movies, like I'm at work and I get asked like if you liked, by my coworkers that know you, if you liked a movie that you saw, and I'm like, yeah, I liked it, right? Or I'll watch a movie that I'm like, oh, what'd you think? And you're like, oh, that was a 2. And I'm like, yeah, I think so too.
Out of 5, yeah.
Because I'm not nearly as
analytical.
Yeah, particular about. I am analytical about movies.
No,
I'm not as particular about movies because I don't. It's not my specialty. Like you're a film critic.
Occupational hazard.
Yeah, so I'm like, yeah, Rob likes it. So I guess I could see it. And I mean, of course, it's always fun to poke fun at movies. We're just like, no. But
we have a whole commentary on the room. If people want to hear us poke fun at movies, that's definitely one to check out. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see tomorrow when we go see It Chapter 2 what Kai has to think about that. So going into my number 5, I had the Frank Oz directed comedy Bowfinger, which I will be doing an episode on at some point. The guest and I keep missing each other. Like, I have to cancel for technical difficulties with my storage space, and also just falling kind of ill for a few days. And then he had something that came up. So there will be a Bowfinger episode eventually. Hopefully by the end of the year. We'll see. We're actually kind of filling up. The rest of the year is really kind of filling up pretty quick. So if not this year, then early 2020, I'll definitely have an episode on Bowfinger. So I have watched it recently, and I have taken copious notes. And I really appreciate this. As a person that is a fan of film, as a fan of the Hollywood system, it's always fun to see a film that really satirizes that and pokes fun at the things about movie making that just don't make sense, and the egos involved, and the sort of one-upsmanship that happens with when people are bound and determined to make a film. And that movie has not only great performances by Steve Martin, who wrote the screenplay, and Eddie Murphy in 2 roles, one of which is complete opposite of his normal on-screen persona. We get as Kit Ramsey, his sort of fast-talking, like paranoid, like kind of Buddy Love-esque figure, where he's just like Eddie Murphy at his most Eddie Murphy. Like I mentioned Will Smith and as the genie in Aladdin is like you taking Will Smith's personality and dialing it up to 11. Well, Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, but like on some kind of drunk and just like talking super fast and super paranoid and like whatever. And so Eddie Murphy gets a lot of juice out of that role, but also as Jiff Ramsey, the like kind of more simple-minded, more like basic, just like kind of down on himself and just wanting to please, Bobby Bowfinger in the movie. I think it's a really good performance by both of them, but also, it has shots at Scientology. It has shots at the studio system. You have Robert Downey Jr. in a small-ish role as a major. I don't know if he's a studio head or producer. I forget. But then there's a lot of really great supporting turns by Heather Graham, by Jamie Kennedy, and it's a really smart film that I think totally holds up. And I think knowing that Steve Martin is sort of an intellectual and has written for the New Yorker a lot and things like that, you can see that sort of awareness of the world that he's been a part of for 20 something years at that point as far as making movies. You can tell that experience really is put to good use in this film. And so that's one that I've really revisited a lot over the years and that I enjoyed watching recently, and I look forward to talking even more on a future episode of the podcast. So what are your thoughts on Bowfinger?
Well, I think we saw Bowfinger many, many years ago. I think we had just gotten together because the visual in my mind, we were in the apartment.
Oh, the first one we first moved in together.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So clearly you really do like that movie because I feel like you were showing me some of your most favorite movies of all time in that apartment.
I also really love Steve Martin, and I also really love Eddie Murphy. Yeah. So
yeah,
they're both like on my pantheon of like great comedic actors.
I have a question though. So you said Steve Martin wrote it. Did he have Eddie Murphy in mind for the role of Kit Ramsey?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I think Steve Martin is probably a big part of what actually brought Eddie Murphy into the project. I think he wanted to really work with Frank Oz and Steve Martin. But no, I don't know. I don't know if he had him in mind or not. I haven't really. I guess I should probably find that out before I do the episode on the film. But
and it's kind of random that Frank Oz directed it because it doesn't seem like a kind of movie he would do. But I don't know a lot about Frank Oz.
Well, he's also done a lot of movies with Steve Martin. He did Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. He did. I think he did. Crap, I'm blanking on it now. I just had it in my mind and I totally forgot about it. He did another Steve Martin movie, which I'll look up in a moment. But he also did, In and Out and Little Shop of Horrors. That was another one they did together.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, right. I didn't want to say that because I didn't know if I was right.
He's done a lot. I mean, Bowfinger, In and Out, The Indian in the Cupboard, which is a cute movie.
Oh yeah.
He did House Sitter, which you love.
I love House Sitter.
What About Bob? Little Shop of Horrors, Muppets Take Manhattan, The Dark Crystal. He did a lot of great movies.
Crystal. Yeah, I was thinking that one too.
Until The Score, which was whatever, and then the Stepford Wives remake, which is a disaster. He had done a lot of great movies up to that point. So really solid comedic filmmaker. I think people need to check out more of his work and appreciate that.
But I don't remember a lot of Bowfinger. I know I was watching the beginning of the movie with you.
I have it upstairs,
a couple of
man.
days ago. I think I remember it being cute and clever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
and
it's a
I
good one.
wouldn't expect anything less from Steve Martin.
Of course.
You said intellectual, but some people might consider him also pretentious.
A little bit.
But yeah, I love Steve Martin
But
too.
if you're smart enough, can you afford it? Is it pretentious if you can back it up? It's like there's I don't know why I keep making all these Will Smith references this episode. It's just 1999. Oh, I should point this out. This is not going to come up as an honorable mention because it's a terrible movie, but I really do kind of love Wild Wild West as a terrible guilty pleasure movie. And I was huge into his Millennium album, which is why I had that callback at the top of the show. But yeah, Will Smith. Where was I making my Will Smith reference? The line is hitting me already faster than I thought.
Something backing it up. Is
Yeah,
it if you're
he's got a
backing it up?
line in a song on Millennium. He says, "Not conceited, I'm as good as I say I am." So, if you can back it up, is it conceited? Is it pretentious? I'll leave that out there for the listener to decide. So, what is your number 4 movie, Kai?
My number 4 movie is, and this is where some people might also agree it's the best, American Beauty.
Oh, okay. So we're jumping ahead on mine list, but we'll get to that in a second.
So I saw American Beauty when I worked at Blockbuster. That was one of the movies that I rented because I heard a lot about it, and I, saw the trailers with Mina Savari's character with the rose petals, and okay. And I already have been hearing a lot of Oscar buzz, and that was around the time I wanted to actually act like I was interested in film.
I could see you as the Thora Birch character
Maybe
at that age. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, I also don't want to be ordinary.
That's true.
I was both of them.
Well, nobody wants to be ordinary, and that's the kind of the.
But that was her thing. She's like, oh, nothing's worse than being boring.
That was the thing of 1999 in general, and I talked about this with Albert Lanier, who I just recorded the Eyes Wide Shut episode that'll air later this fall. Is that all the movies? A lot of the movies on the cover of this book were about the real life, the dream world, what's real, what's not, what's possible, what isn't. Can you break out of this corporate prison or this, the Matrix or the TPS reports
Was
or
it because of the
Fight Club or
Y2K
whatever?
scare? You think that's what kind of
I don't know.
made this
That's why
happen?
I'm looking forward to finishing this
the world
book.
was going to end because
Maybe that's probably part of it. But I mean, a lot of these films were in production.
computers really started to be kind of taking a hold on our society in 1999.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first
Uncertainty, I guess.
computer until I was 13,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just going into accessing chat rooms and stuff. It wasn't like it became in 99. I mean, I guess I don't really relate to that either because we still weren't using computers very much in high school.
No. I mean, I didn't. Yeah. In 1999, we had computers. I mean, I started as a kid using my dad's Commodore 64, which is that's a real old tech reference for people listening. But 1999, I was just doing kind of like that was back when AOL had like AOL search words, and that was like the you can get to a website by typing a word in AOL. And
I was still using
like
the typewriter
AOL
for
keywords
my
or whatever.
papers in school.
I might have been using a computer, but I wasn't really using the internet very much at that point.
I don't know what the hell I was doing. I think I was using computers at school, but I was really confused on how to do stuff.
But you weren't using the internet, really. That's the
Right,
thing.
yeah.
Internet was not. Now it's like, oh, go online to take your class. And back 20 years ago, we're like, what? How does that even work?
Well, we were even talking about that today, about how I was talking about how it'd be cool to start a business that was just experience, like it was an agent that just.
Well, don't tell people your idea if you end up doing it.
Well, anyway, it was like just being some type of agent that booked things for people, itineraries, and you're like, why? What would they need that for? That's what Google.
It's called the internet. I want to set up a nail appointment for this, or I want to go rent a boat for this. All right, what time? Here. Okay, good. There you go. Done. I mean, if you'd be on the Cricket Table podcast, I have a Calendly. I'm like, here, pick something. I don't know. Let me know what you want to talk about. We'll figure it out.
The internet killed an entire industry.
It changed everything, and we're not talking about American Beauty at all really anymore. We're just talking about 1999. But we're the last generation that remembers life before the internet.
Exennials.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are we Zennials?
Xennials, like a very small subset of people, millennials that like we're
barely
me and Rob
millennials.
are millennials, but yeah, we're like not enough. Like I have a cousin that is 13 years younger than me. She is still a millennial, but she had a computer and internet when she was 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we didn't have cell phones until we were 18. I still had a pager in
Right.
high school.
I never
like
had a
I had
pager,
a freaking
but-
pager, like a drug dealer. I wasn't. I'm just saying that that's what the connotation is with a pager. And you know, we were the last generation before having internet. You know, and we grew up with a different type of work ethic. And we graduated from college before the tuition crisis started.
Right.
So
Bright Futures was covered more of
more of your future.
Yeah, exactly. It was brighter futures.
And we were told to wear sunglasses because
right.
the future was so bright.
Nice.
Got to wear shades. I think that was 99.
That wasn't such an old joke 20 years ago. It wasn't as dated. But no, to your point, and then we'll get to American Beauty, which was number 2 on my list, I should say. So that you're stealing some of my mojo, which is a reference to one of my honorable mentions. We are sort of stuck between, like, we're young enough to want to have podcasts, social media followings, know how to code and SEO and all that good stuff, but old enough to still have to really struggle at times to keep up with these youngins out there who had just come out of the womb knowing how to operate,
Like our kid?
smartphones and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like our daughter, who's almost 3 and knows how to navigate my iPhone better than I do. She's like, oh, I want pictures. Oh, I'm like, how did you get to that? What is going on?
How'd you turn off my 4G yet again?
Yeah, exactly. That's, and I think 1999 is, we're actually, unfortunately, the weird, like, stopgap between, like, the technology changeover of society and how it's changed everything, how we operate. So, American Beauty, you like this movie? Number 4.
I do, and I remember like when the Oscar nominations were coming out. I'm like, American Beauty must have gotten nominated for cinematography. I didn't even know what cinematography is, but I knew that American Beauty had that and
Right.
should have been recognized for that, and it was.
Like, yeah, cinematography.
I think it did. Yeah, I think it did win for
Well,
cinematography
it
that
did
year.
win. Go ahead.
And it did
Martha.
win Best Actor.
It did win. Well, we should say it did win Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Director, and I think Best Screenplay at least.
And Annette Bening lost her Oscar.
For the first time to Hilary Swank.
And then Hilary Swank won again.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And I do remember Hilary Swank's Oscar dress, but yeah,
Cinematography. Yeah, that was the last one. Wow, good job, Kai.
And I will do the plug for Rob. Rob actually has a podcast with his friend Michael Hinman that talks about American Beauty. So
Right.
make sure that you check that out. But it's just it's a beautiful movie, and also
Heart-wrenching movie
Heart-wrenching,
too
yeah.
at the same time. Yeah.
because I did watch it with you, right?
You were, I think, sitting there on your computer, and you'd seen it before, so you obviously weren't like, what's happening? You were just kind of refreshing your memory of it.
And being married and seeing this movie.
Having a daughter and seeing this movie.
Yeah, it's a lot different to see that at
This stage of life.
of life instead of when we were in high school.
Yeah, and if people, as you mentioned, if people want to hear and more in-depth thoughts, I don't know how long Mike and I talked about it, at least over an hour, but that was late last year we did that episode.
It's too bad it wasn't this year, because I was even
I know,
curious
it was
how many
December. It was
movies
December.
You talked about this
I'm going
year.
to count it because it was December 31st I posted. So we talk about it for about an hour. And that's his favorite movie. He considers that his favorite movie of all time. I'm not quite up there. It's actually, as I mentioned, number 2 on my list. So, it's short of one movie that it will obviously get to, and people that know me will probably easily guess what that is.
And I wanted to also mention, is that it also showed that you could be a closet gay when there's homophobia. And
Well, I mean,
when I was
don't know
in
if
high school,
I
I
was
was
the first one to
even
show that, but it's more mainstream, definitely.
Yeah, well, I remember even being in high school, and there were people that I knew that would say remarks about gay people, and I even said, are you like like, are you gay yourself? I'm like, what are you talking about? I don't like gay people. I'm like, you actually can be a gay person and be homophobic. And she's like, ah. And so that movie kind of touched upon that, spoilers. I know. And I thought that was like a very interesting take on something like that, because that's still going on now.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was a story recently I saw just this past week on Facebook and stuff that one of the like big conversion therapy people came out as gay. He's like, I'm so sorry for my role in that.
And it's not like I'm that surprised.
No, that's a lot of times it's denial of your own urges and such. And I don't know how revolutionary that was at this point for that on screen, but for us as like 16-year-olds seeing it, like, you know, I mentioned earlier about 1999 being such an eye-opening, like, breakthrough year for movies, and it's because a lot of bold statements were being made in films such as American Beauty. So that's a good pick. Obviously, you know, I had that on my list, so we're in sync. I didn't think there would be any overlap, but I guess that will be the overlap one.
And I like that other thing about that movie too is that I like that the character, oh my gosh, I don't remember his name.
Lester Burnham.
Yes, Lester.
That was
Lester
off
Burnham.
the top of my head.
I like that he was unhappy with his life. And he was going to make efforts to change it, to improve it, and that is all about what Be Bold, Be Brave.
That's the other thing, and it's weird. The reason we're going longer this episode than our '98 one is because we're talking about not only the movies of '99, but like the culture of '99, and that's movies at the time were a lot of them were like that, about breaking out of things, and it was both. In many cases, kind of inspiring, but also kind of harrowing at the same time. And I think American Beauty is like that. Like, you're rooting for him, but then you're like, he also wants getting buffed so that he can have sex with his daughter's friend, a teenager. You know, it's like there's a lot of sort of questionable angles. I mean, not the least of which is that Kevin Spacey is now persona non grata in Hollywood, thanks to his own indiscretions and his own behavior in real life. But just thematically, like something like Fight Club, which, you know, I had an episode talking to, you know, my good friend, the famous Ashley Grant, about that movie. And that if you watch it from the right mindset, it's inspiring. You're like, yeah, I'm going to make it happen. And if you look at it from the other side, you're like, oh, I'm going to destroy systems around me and like possibly hurt people and like change, like, you know, kind of risk everything on hopefully making things for the better. I don't know. At least starting some shit and creating a sense of anarchy. So in that vein, let's talk about number 4, as far as shaking things up and a sense of anarchy. I had at number 4, Kevin Smith's Dogma, which is probably my favorite Kevin Smith movie. Like, I think it's the most interesting, and it's the most forthright he is with any of his movies. It's not just about dick and fart jokes. Like, I'm really looking forward to Jay and Silent Bob reboot. I really love Strike Back. I really love the Clerks movies and things like that. But this is not just people talking about like shooting the shit and making pop culture references and you know, scatological humor. This is him kind of poking fun and also having a very incisive commentary on the Catholic Church. And people listening to this may or may not know. I don't know if it's come up before. It probably has. I was raised Catholic, not so much anymore. And so this film really resonates with me in a lot of ways, and it probably helped open my eyes to be like, well, religion, does it make sense? I don't know. And made me think about it in a different perspective. It is kind of, yes, it's a Kevin Smith movie in a lot of ways, but it's also not a Kevin Smith movie in a lot of ways. I feel like it's Kevin Smith's script is probably his best work, I would say, as far as economy of storytelling, as far as creating a mythology and a world behind the Catholicism and the religion at play. Great performances by Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Alan Rickman, Chris Rock, Linda Fiorentino, George Carlin, Jason Lee. Like, it's a really great ensemble of Kevin Smith regulars with also some people that were new to his View Askew universe at that point.
Alanis Morissette?
Well, she's not really. She shows up at the end to smile and be God, basically.
Well, that's a big.
But it is. But Salma Hayek, I forgot Salma Hayek is in there as one of the muses. There's a muse, I guess I she's amusing in it too. It's just a really imaginative social commentary on religion and its role in society, and just and it's not even this. And it was, of course, it was banned by the Catholic Church because, you know, whatever. And it's not even necessarily deriding the religion, like organized religion or the Catholic Church, but it's trying to get people thinking and questioning things more. And it definitely did that for me when I saw it probably around 2000 or so. And I think it still stands as probably Kevin Smith's best work to date.
I was going to say with the Catholic Church now, 20 years later, I wonder if it would be banned now because we have
the Pope is a lot cooler than he used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it that now the Pope is so cool and woke that some Catholics actually are mad at him and don't like him?
Wouldn't surprise me. So, Dogma. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Dogma?
So I didn't see Dogma until only a couple of years ago with Rob and some friends of ours. And
friends of ours? Who did we watch it with?
It was with writing group.
Oh, really? Okay, I forgot that.
And I mean, I liked it okay. I mean, I don't want to sound dense here, but I kind of didn't get why it was offensive. Like, it seemed to me like it was about Catholicism, about Jesus. I don't know. I guess.
Well, it was. I mean, not to get too religious here, but I think it was in large part because it was questioning the untouchable nature of Christianity, of Catholicism, of religion. Like, you're not really supposed to question things. That's just the Lord's will, that kind of thing. And the movie also...
Oh, yeah, I didn't get that.
The movie also posits that... Spoilers for a 20-year-old movie. The movie also posits that Jesus had kids. That Bethany, the Linda Fiorentino character, is the great, whatever, how many greats Chris Rock tells her, granddaughter of Jesus Christ. And so she's like the last remaining heir, so to speak.
Oh, right.
Of the
What's
bloodline.
wrong with that? I mean, that's maybe not.
Well, he's not supposed to have intercourse. Jesus, he's Jesus. So that's also part of why something like The Last Temptation of Christ was such a huge deal then, because it said, well, what if Jesus was a normal man and struggled and had a life and fell in love
with Mary
and had sex and had, well, that's also Da Vinci Code too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these movies that veer off of the perfect vision of who Jesus Christ was and how the Catholic Church operates. And this is no judgment to people that are, devout Catholics or anything. I'm just saying my perspective and talking about the film, that Kevin Smith put out 20 years ago. And so, don't send me angry tweets or anything. It's everybody's to each his own. It's all good. But that to me is kind of, I think, part of the Catholic Church doesn't really like being questioned or having their beliefs, I don't know.
Okay, that makes sense. The thing is, I didn't grow up with any particular religious path. So that's why I'm like, I don't get it.
Which is why that movie didn't resonate with you as much, which is why it's not on your top 5. But yeah. So that's just my thoughts on Dogma. I think it's a great movie. It's an interesting movie, and it's actually kind of one I feel like watching now again. I feel like I should go back and rewatch some of the View Askew movies to prepare for a reboot. But yeah, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. Love his, seen him. We've seen him. You saw him live with Hollywood Babylon. I've seen him a couple times. So I love his work, and I think this is his best. So number 3, Kai.
Never Been Kissed.
Oh boy, Drew Barrymore. Not surprised. Didn't she show up last 98? Oh yeah, Ever After.
Oh yeah. And if we did 97, I would do Wedding Singer.
Oh no, that was 98 also. Actually, it must. I think that would have been on. Maybe that was your number 1 of 98.
No, you had Wedding Singer, and I had Ever After.
Oh, I like Wedding Singer much better.
Well, right. So, Never Been Kissed.
Good movie.
So yeah, so Drew Barrymore, she's my girl, and I was really hyped up for this movie because this movie also was the first movie that she ever produced under Flower Films, and I mean, I did not buy her as a 17-year-old. I mean, I can't even believe, like, she actually wasn't even 25. She was 22. But her life decisions have aged her. But I just think it's a really cute movie. And, it's the first time we ever saw Jessica Alba. And
Lily Sobieski, who's also in Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah, and Michael Vartan was, I think that was the first time I saw him.
Former Mr. Jennifer Garner.
And Octavia Spencer makes an appearance.
I forgot that.
Yeah, in the beginning of the movie. And I like it because who hasn't felt that way? Who hasn't wanted to go back to high school and do it again? Like me and my sister used to say that if we went back to high school now, we would totally kick ass. We would run the place because you're a lot more confident. You're a lot more wise. You
understand people, I think, better too.
Yeah.
Is the thing. You're like, really, you're just acting this way because you're insecure about blah blah or whatever, and you'd be able to see through people's facades. Which, come on, everybody had that in high school.
Yeah,
I was gonna say in Hollywood, but that's like we already covered that in Bowfinger.
And you have more perspective on what's important. And so that's what Never Been Kissed is about, is doing it all over again and would things be different. And in the beginning of the movie, things aren't different. She's still being bullied. She's being made fun of. And she just doesn't want to be Josie Grossi anymore. And then her brother, David Arquette, who apparently Drew Barrymore grew up with him. You know, they were child actors together. And he changes things for her and he makes her popular, because that's the other thing about high school is it's all in who you know. If one person thinks you're cool, everyone else thinks you're like. I remember going to high school and there would be these girls that would be the new girls, and like all of a sudden they'd be befriended. I mean, I'm sure that you saw that too. Like they're just these new people, like, oh, you look cool, and Mean Girls touches upon that, or this girl that was not, no one ever really. She kind of kept to herself. She starts going out with a popular boy. Now she's popular. And that's actually one of the big reasons that I moved away, was because it was getting too hard to go to my high school. And that was around the same time that the move to Melbourne, Florida was happening. So I really, really resonated with that. I still do. And I actually even made her, the scene at the end of the movie at prom as one of my monologues in my drama class, the movie had just come out, so I was trying to find it online.
Breaks the crown and
No, that was Mean People. That was Mean Girls.
I always get this confused. What is she doing? What did she do at the prom?
She's like, let me tell you something. I'm 25 years old.
Oh yeah. I've obviously seen Mean Girls and Never Been Kissed both confused me in that part, because they both have like a big monologue at a prom. I'm pretty sure, right?
Yeah.
And I always kind of flip the two. No, but Never Been Kissed is a good one. I don't even think I wrote that down for my honorable mentions, but that is a good movie. I do like that film quite a bit. Drew Barrymore was in a really sweet spot in the late 90s between Ever After and Wedding Singer. Charlie's Angels in 2000.
Oh, 2000. Right.
But yeah. So I'm like 98, like 98. Maybe Scream, I think, was a big one. That Drew Barrymore, she's still around. We should put her in things. And maybe that's what kind of helped her really make all this string of really successful movies.
I actually saw Never Been Kissed with my good friend that we saw today. I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw that
Darlene?
with her. Yeah.
Aw, that's nice.
So
that's a
because
fun
I remember,
coincidence.
because she's like, oh, that was really cute, and I was getting emotional at the end, and I was telling Darlene about needing to do a monologue for my drama class and thinking about doing that one, and so I just remembered that was who I saw that movie with. So I think we got dropped off by her dad or something like that, but because we both still didn't have cars, but
yeah, that was a good choice, good pick.
I actually haven't seen it in a long time.
We could totally watch that again.
I own it. I mean, you bought it.
I did. I got it for you on Blu-ray, I think, right? Mm-hmm. That would be another good one to show, because my mom, who loves all the rom-coms, especially in the 90s ones, I think some of the better ones came out in the 90s, honestly. She hasn't seen another movie that I have a feeling is still coming up on your list, and you always talk about we should bring that over to show her, as well as Never Been Kissed. So, yeah.
How do you know it's on my list?
I know you. I know your top two now. I know we've known each other for 9 years, and we've been together for 8 years, so it's not hard to guess what your top two are, knowing what movies came out that year. So, number 3, I had Toy Story 2. I'm not surprised. You're not surprised?
No, I saw it on that list, and I knew that was one of the ones we were going to pick.
It's not one of my favorite. It's certainly probably not my least favorite, but it's my third favorite Toy Story movie, I think. It's actually not one of the ones I consider a quote-unquote masterpiece, but I think this is because Toy Story came out in 1995, and so 4 years later, which seemed like a long time for a sequel, for an animated sequel then, and then of course it was another 11 years until Toy Story 3, and then another 9 years until Toy Story 4. So they
maybe another 9 years to Toy Story 5.
Who knows? See. Who knows? I don't think they're ever going to really be done with it. They'll be like, no, there's this little morsel of a story we still have yet to tell. Which Toy Story 4, I haven't done my review yet for crookedtable.com, but I liked it. I didn't love it. It's probably my least favorite of the Toy Stories, but still solid. Toy Story 2, I think, is where the movies started to show how much they could really delve into with the concept of living toys. I think obviously the standout sequence is the whole Jessie flashback scene with Sarah McLachlan's When She Loved Me, where you really feel the life cycle that these toys have to go through between being purchased, being loved by a toy, being forgotten for years under your... It made me feel really bad. It made me want to go home and take all my toys and be like, I love you guys, I'm never going to forget you. Which is probably why I still have a giant bin upstairs filled with like my old action figures and stuff, because I'm like, I'm never going to... You're always going to be next to me. I'm not going to be like Emily or Andy. Spoilers for Toy Story 3. So no, I loved the film. I love the fact that it gives Woody a rich backstory, obviously very inspired by Howdy Doody. I love the additions specifically of Bullseye and Joan Cusack, who I really love in pretty much everything as Jessie. The whole dynamic of putting them in a toy store where they can interact with Barbie, where they can explore the aisles and kind of get into shenanigans. I really like all that. And the backstory behind the film I love even more, because Toy Story was a huge hit. It came out right around the time, it came out in 95, and then Disney really started churning the direct-to-video sequel wheel in 1996. No, actually, the year before, 1994, with Return of Jafar. And so they were like full-on doing direct-to-video sequels to everything, and they were getting ready to do their own Toy Story 2 that was just going to go straight to video, until they were able to get Pixar into it, and they were able to put out a movie that was much better, infinitely better than anything we would have gotten. Went to theaters, became a huge hit, one of the biggest that year. And I also mentioned on...
Was it like the top 3?
It was probably up there, yeah. And I mentioned on, I forget what podcast it was recently, I did a podcast about this. I think it might have been regarding, I mentioned in Aladdin and then Lion King. I did the Lion King podcast with Danielle Solzman, and we talked about, which will air later this fall, and we talked about how that was the beginning of like celebrity casting. Toy Story 2 was also, I think to my knowledge, the first animated movie that had the voice actor's names above the title. So it was like Tom Hanks, Tim Allen, Toy Story 2. Which
I
think
they hadn't
was
done that before?
Not that I had ever seen or can remember. Not even for Aladdin. That wasn't the case. You just had to be like, this is Robin Williams. Did you know that's Robin Williams? Did you?
Huh.
And then after that, a couple years later, Shrek was like, Mike Myers, Cameron Diaz, Eddie Murphy, blah, blah, blah.
Because then I guess that's when there was more money and notoriety. And
right, exactly. So Toy Story 2, I think, is a pivotal movie for animation and for animated sequels, and also for Pixar showing what they could do when they were really given a franchise to delve deeper into these characters and sort of these high concepts that they came up with. Like, well, what does that really mean when you dig down into it? What are the ramifications of toys, these plastic things that we play with and then forget about and give away or throw out? How would that play out in real time over several years? So I really love that movie. Quick rebuttal, Toy Story, thoughts on Toy Story 2?
Okay. I don't like Jessie.
I know.
The voice of Jessie. And
my
that's no
mom doesn't
insult
like
to
Jessie either, I swear.
It's not the insult to Joan Cusack. I just don't like the way that the voice is. It's abrasive to me.
She's too excited?
Yeah, and...
Yeehaw!
Yeah, I just don't. I don't. And it takes away some of that, the liking of that movie because of Jessie. But it's a cute movie, and I actually hadn't even seen Toy Story 2 until Rob showed it to
There's
me.
a lot of that going around.
A few years ago. I mean, I don't know how we were able to see all these movies because, like I said, I didn't have a car. Like, I didn't have...
How did I go to see all these movies?
Yeah.
Okay, well, little Rob Bio moment. 1999, I wasn't driving. I didn't have a car. I didn't know how to drive. I was a really late bloomer when it came to driving because I was terrified of driving until my early to mid 20s was when I was like, I guess I have to drive because I was...
Okay, I don't like driving either.
I know, but I was like scared to get a license, scared to get behind the wheel. I was a very anxious child. Not a lot has changed. In summer, I do drive, But and I'm pretty confident driving now. But at the time, so no, that was obviously not an issue for me. My family and I were very movie centric in a lot of ways. I mean, we would do movie nights a lot. We would go to the movies quite often. And now thinking back, I'm like, I know what my parents were more or less making. I'm impressed that they were able to swing that all the time.
It wasn't so bad.
Going to the movies. Though. Yeah, well, it's true. You go to a matinee, it was like
$7.
If you go to like they used to
night?
have here the 2 to 6 or whatever with like the slow period at the movie theater. And tickets, I think I'd seen as low as like $3.75 for a Twilight showing, or not Twilight, the
like
stupid
now?
franchise. No, back in the day,
yeah.
in the late '90s, like $3.75 for a movie ticket. Now it's like $11 unless you go
like
before
Blair Witch
noon at
Project.
AMC. Yeah,
It was one of those cheap movie theaters I went to go see. It was $3. I really didn't want to spend the $3 at all for that movie, but that's just what you could get away with back then. Like I remember going to movies at night, even as a student, and it was like $5. No, I don't think they even have student pricing anymore.
I think they do. But you have to like one night a week. I think.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly. It
student
was like,
night. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, it was like every night.
So in 20 years, we'll be lucky. We'll get a discount.
And I was like totally still using my student ID, even though I wasn't a student anymore. Like, I gotta get my $5 movie.
I want to, yeah, well, I think a lot of people did that. I want to throw this out there. I don't even think they have an affiliate program, but AMC Theaters, if you're listening, I used to work there. I worked there from 2001 to 2003. I really love AMC A-List. I would love to do an affiliate program, an affiliate like relationship for the Crooked Table podcast. I can't say enough good things about that program, and the fact that I go see movies a couple times a week if I can. And it's just $20 every month. So this is total unpaid advertisement. But yeah, movie tickets now are insane. So the fact that I have A-List, the fact that I sometimes go to screenings is very helpful.
I remember when I heard that New York and LA were charging $15 a movie ticket. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. Well, in Tampa, I mean, it's not.
It's like, yeah, 13, 14 for a regular. And then if you're seeing Dolby or 3D or IMAX or whatever, that's, 17, 18, something on there, maybe.
And it's easy to be in the number one movie when you're charging $15-something for a movie ticket. That's why I'm always like, all right, so what is it adjusted for inflation? Anyway, so Toy Story 2.
You liked and loved basically on your end.
Yeah, it's
like middling. Is it like middling Pixar?
Toy Story in between, like it might be close to Toy Story 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you have a closer, but you still probably 3, 1, 2, 4 Toy Stories, or is it?
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm at. Maybe 3 and 1 are almost interchangeable. I think I probably want to watch them again.
And you could probably put that Sarah McLachlan song on that whole scene. Just
so
put it on
great.
right now, and we would just start crying.
Yeah, it's so
like Up, you know.
That was the thing. Like I didn't cry in Bug's Life. I didn't cry in the first Toy Story. Really, they were like, oh, he doesn't realize he can't fly. That's sad. But I wasn't like, oh. And then Toy Story 2, that was the moment where Pixar was like, oh shit, we got these motherfuckers by the heartstrings. Every movie, we're gonna make you cry. WALL-E, Coco, Inside Out, even Monsters Inc. There's moments where I get very emotional, especially the ending.
But still, the winner is Up.
Yeah, Up, of course.
I don't think any movie has the potential to make anybody cry.
Oh, I
like
watch
that.
Sometimes if I'm just feeling very emotional and I need to get it out, I'll just find that scene on YouTube and be like, he loved her so much, and now he's alone.
Yeah, man, it's
so. Toy Story 2 was very, very impactful movie on Pixar Animation Studios. So, and it's a great movie.
The eyes weren't as scary, right? The people eyes weren't scary.
Not as much. It came a long way in just those 4 years, and then you watch it now. There's videos all over YouTube comparing the dog in Toy Story, which is like, to the cat in Toy Story 4, and it's like, so it's like night and day. Like the detail that they're able to get to now is insane.
Well, even Finding Nemo,
right? In 2003,
the detail.
Well,
changed a lot.
Or from Finding Nemo to Finding Dory, that they accomplished things in Finding Dory that there's no way they could do. They 10 years, 13 years
and
earlier.
This movie is not good, but The Good Dinosaur. I mean, the one thing we kept saying about the movie is, the visuals were beautiful.
Well, it looks like photorealistic backgrounds with animated characters in them, which
and
is what they should have done with the Lion King remake. Just saying.
And wasn't it with the whole thing with Finding Dory, where I read trivia that said that they did the water actually even better than in the movie, but like I think
It looked too real.
Yeah, it looked too real. Like, okay, you gotta scale it back a little bit.
Say what you want about Disney and the fact that they're taking over Hollywood, but their visual effects have been getting incredibly well, incredibly impressive from Star Wars to Marvel to Pixar. It's just they have the money to do it, so that's what.
So what happened with at what point did Disney then buy Pixar?
I think it was like 2006.
Okay, so
around there. So there was like
it was a little bit after Toy Story 2.
It was several years after Toy Story 2. Yeah, it was like right around the time of like I think Cars. It was came out in 2006.
Oh, that was the deciding factor.
I mean, I guess merchandising, like Spaceballs, merchandising. We'll put the picture's name on everything. Yeah. So anyway, Toy Story 2. Let's moving on. Number 2, Kai. Which of the 2 movies is it that I know it's going to be on your list?
Why don't you introduce it?
I don't know which one it is. Is it going to be 10 Things I Hate About You?
Ding, 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 ding.
I was like, what is that?
I don't know what I was trying to do there. Yes, 10 Things I Hate About You. So this movie, yes, your mom still has not seen it, and she would love it. And so 10 Things I Hate About You, this came out in, I think, March 30th, 1999. And I was so excited for this movie because the trailer made it look so fun. And I liked the fact that it was a Shakespeare, like a modernized Shakespeare, because that was kind of like on the rage.
Well, came out with Julia Stiles a couple years later, I think, right? Or the next year?
I think it was like 2000. Yeah, that was like modernizing Shakespeare movies was kind of on the rage, and like for maybe only a couple of years.
Julia Stiles, they were like, hey, be in our updated Shakespeare. She's like, okay. And then they're like, no, we're good. Oh, okay.
Yeah. And actually had saw Taming of the Shrew around that time too in school. So, but I saw 10 Things I Hate About You first. And for those that don't know, the Taming of the Shrew actually had Elizabeth Taylor in it. And she played the cat character. But yeah, so we have 10 Things I Hate About You with a baby Joseph Gordon-Levitt. He had been on Roseanne, he had been on Third Rock from the Sun, and this was, I guess, like his first real...
And Angels in the Outfield, 1994.
Okay, so it was not his first big screen debut, but he cut his hair, and he was 19 or so, and we have Julia Stiles in there, Larissa Oleynik from Alex Mack.
Yeah, you're leaving out a very obvious person.
And Heath Ledger. And I don't think anybody knew who Heath Ledger was. I didn't. And Heath Ledger plays the bad boy Patrick, and who's supposed to swoon and court Kat, the character that Julia Stiles played. And Andrew Keegan, Andrew Keegan was really big in the 90s. He had been a guest star on Seventh Heaven. He was on Full House. He then was like on Thunder Alley or something like that. So he was more of a TV guy. And I guess this was like his first, maybe last film role. So I really liked Andrew Keegan too. I was like, oh, Andrew Keegan. So he was the one I was more like, Andrew Keegan. Now I'm more like,
who the hell are these guys?
Yeah, exactly. And so it's a really endearing movie because you have two people that are misunderstood, that are gossiped about, that are judged, and they find romance, they find love. And they better themselves. And Kat becomes a better sister. She becomes less like uptight, less shrewish. And
I had to do another Spaceballs reference. But like a play on a Spaceballs reference. It was like, funny, she doesn't look shrewish.
So, and then there was that line. I still think about this line to this day, but like the dad in that movie made me laugh a lot because he was trying to be.
Oh, Larry Miller.
Yeah, he tried to be
Nutty Professor.
He tried to be hip, and he was not hip, but he would like speak like he was. And some of the fashion was cute, but there was a line that Kat's character said to her dad. She said, like, stop trying to. Gosh, I don't remember the whole line, but she wanted to go to an East Coast school, and her dad didn't want her to, and she's like, "Stop punishing me because mom left," and it was just a father that's trying to keep control of his daughters, and he was an obstetrician, so his antics with that were really funny, where he's like, "You got to wear the belly," and they're like, "Oh gosh, don't make me wear the belly," so they would not have unprotected sex and get pregnant. So, but yeah, so 10 Things I Said About You, I think really, it kind of changed things with the teen comedy. Which 1999 was a huge year for teen comedy. She's All That was on that list.
Yeah. Oh,
Never
yeah.
Been Kissed, obviously.
Yeah, you mentioned that one.
But I think Never Been Kissed and 10 Things I Said About You came out the same month. So I don't know. Maybe I saw the movie as double feature or something. I don't know.
That would be a good double feature.
And then
I mean, it's not a comedy really, but the book that I'm reading that I keep referencing because it's kind of crystallizing all my thoughts about 1999 this year in general with the 20th anniversary of that pivotal cinematic milestone. Also, Go and Cruel Intentions were the same year too, so it was a really like teen movie year in a way, like bold teen movies that were like trying crazy shit and getting young people out to the theaters for like vastly different story, like not John Hughes style movies either anymore.
right, exactly. And the thing about 10 Things Said About You too was it was satirized on another teen movie that came out in 2001 with my boy Chris Evans,
Who's currently getting everybody swooning, to go back to your word there earlier, at the Toronto International Film Festival for Knives Out. I just saw on Twitter earlier.
See how much things change. But so that movie was parodied. Not another teen movie parodied 10 Things I Said About You kind of a lot. Like She's All That and 10 Things I Said About You were kind of like
Right.
neck and neck with what was parodied the most. But and Cruel Intentions too, like you said. But yeah, it's just a really cute movie. And I don't remember what you said. Didn't you say that you didn't want to see it because it looked boring or stupid or something?
Yeah, I mean, I saw She's All That when it came out. I was like, this is cute and stuff. But I'm not. Yeah, I feel like a lot of movies like that didn't seem as smart as it actually is. It didn't seem as much heart as it is, and I kind of gave it short shrift at the time. Especially, as a 16-year-old boy, I'm not going to go out of my way to go see 10 Things I Hate About You.
Exactly.
Right?
I think we're a lot more judgmental as 16-year-olds sometimes than we are when we're older.
Yeah.
But it changed a lot for those actors and
for
clearly
sure.
for Heath Ledger's career. And I mean that scene where he's on the bleachers singing to
I
Cascade.
love you, baby.
Yeah, that was something. And
well, and then you have the iconic the whole like pivotal poem that she reads at the end about the 10 Things I Hate. The title
that you didn't
reference.
call. And I think with maybe the reason why people didn't see Heath Ledger as being Joker in The Dark Knight is because they kept picturing him as Patrick from 10 Things About You, like
or the guy from a
teen guy,
or the guy from A
guy.
Knight's Tale. Like, yeah, he was more this heartthrob, and it's like, how's he gonna be the Joker, like the most unhinged, unpredictable supervillain in comic book history.
And he pulled it off.
He won a posthumous Oscar, and now Joaquin Phoenix is following in his footsteps, possibly to awards contention and stuff, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Good choice. Wasn't again. I think some of the movies I didn't write down for honorable mentions are because I'm like, well, Kai's got that covered. I don't need to mention that at all.
And 10 Things I Hate About You was actually a movie we watched a few years ago for my birthday movie.
You introduced me.
Yeah. Yeah, it was one of my birthday movies. I'm like, I want to watch 10 Things About You. And you're like, okay.
I got it for you on Blu-ray, just like Never Been Kissed.
Yeah.
So, yeah, good choice. Number 2, obviously, for me, I already said American Beauty. We touched on that. Great performances from Kevin Spacey and Annette Bening, kind of a perversion of the stereotypical American dream. And just a fascinating movie anyway you slice it. I don't know how, in some ways, if it ages as well as it would like, but I think it definitely holds up thematically, if nothing else. So I don't really think we have that much more to say about American Beauty. I have an hour-long podcast if you want to hear more on my thoughts on American Beauty.
It's only an hour?
Yeah, it was only an hour. This was before I was just like, we're just going to keep talking until they shut us down. Who's going to shut you down? There's nobody to shut you down. Exactly. Which is why I have 2 hours on Revenge of the Sith for some reason. So, Kai, your number 1, which I know what it is, but I'll let you say it unless you...
I'll say it.
Spies!
My number 1 is Office Spies. Because obviously, Rob and I did a podcast before the Avengers Endgame one about Office Space. So definitely check that out for our thoughts on Office Space and why it's great. And Office Space changed the game. I mean, it's on the cover of the book.
It is.
And I talk about it at work. It's just, and it started as a comic book with Milton, and that's why he's He's on.
Was it a comic book or like animated shorts? I forget.
Oh, I don't know.
I think it might have been animated shorts. I think you're even on the DVD.
And actually, it's kind of funny. I have a coworker. She celebrated a year at my place of work, and my coworker bought her a year present, which was Milton with the Post-its all over him. And I was confused. I'm like, what? Why is Milton? I don't get it. Like, why does Milton have Post-its all over him? I don't remember that in the movie.
That was the poster. Oh, sorry.
And my coworker's like, the other coworker's like, oh, because that's the poster. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course it is. Because Milton was the main character, and even though in the comic strip, so even though he was kind of didn't have as big of a part in the movie because it was more about Peter and Michael Bolton.
Not the singer, not the Michael Bolton you're thinking of.
Yeah, but Milton, that was who the shorts were about, so that's who got to be on the poster. But it's when you've worked in an office setting. It's true. It's all true. You know, you want to get that printer and you want to get a bat and just start hitting it. Like, in fact, I think one of my girls even like, she's like, what about that scene from Office Space with the printer? I want to do that right now. And the thing is like, I watched this movie and loved this movie and connected this movie before I was even working in an office.
You're talking about the printer, and then I'm thinking, what does it say? Isn't it like PC load letter?
Yeah.
I was like, what does that mean?
So, Office Space, it's great. It's my favorite movie of all time.
I thought, is it that or Shawshank? Or is it like Office Space and then Shawshank?
Well, I feel like they're totally different genres.
Oh, well, yeah.
So they could go, they can.
So you're like, so you're doing what I do and kind of having two movies like for, depending on your mood, basically.
Right. So, yeah. So Office Space is my favorite comedy of all time. And Shawshank is my favorite like drama.
Okay, fair enough. So you're Golden Globing it is what you're doing.
Yeah.
My favorite music. Office Space is your favorite musical or comedy?
Exactly.
No,
there is music though. Oh my gosh, though.
The great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster. That wasn't in my top 5. It probably would have been, honestly, it probably would have been number 6, though, if I had to extend it out. I do like it quite a bit.
Honorable mention?
Yeah, absolutely. It would have been number 6.
But you didn't even like it that much until a few years ago.
Well, that's one of, and I've said this on the podcast because we did a whole episode on Office Space, as you mentioned. It was one of, like, I think 4 movies we both owned on DVD independently before we got together. It was that, Down with Love.
And Shawshank.
Shawshank and...
there's Something About Mary.
Something About Mary. Yes, exactly. So I guess we have to do a Something About Mary episode.
And a Down with Love.
Yes, we have. That's true. That's the next one.
Yes.
That's the next time we have you on for a traditional formatted episode. We're definitely good Down with Love. I mentioned that to Karen Peterson when we did the Bridget Jones's Diary conversation because we mentioned Renee Zellweger and how great she is and how she did Down with Love a couple years after and things like that. So yeah, we'll definitely do that. That'll be your next. I don't know if it's gonna be your next appearance, but it'll be your next normal format appearance. I like to bring you out for these special ones. But Office Space is hilarious, and we talked about it in depth on the episode. And it just doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't hit. It doesn't. It's not like it's not my favorite movie of all time. It's not even in my top 5 movies of 1999. I do like it a lot, but I feel like I admire what it has become more than I enjoy the movie, if that makes sense. Like, I enjoy the movie, but I'm not like, this is amazing. It's like, so many of these films, I feel like it is how much you love it, how much you love any film really depends on a lot on who you are when you see it, what circumstances you see it in. And that's why I think the term favorite or the term best film is really such bullshit, because best according to you, not according to me, that could be your favorite film. And I saw Office Space, I think I got it from the library or something, and I said this on the episode as well. And I saw it in pieces and kind of, watched it a lot when it was on Comedy Central and things like that. So it's a movie I really love, but not as much as you, I guess, is my point. So for more on that, listen to our Office Space episode. And of course,
how nice is you can just plug all these episodes.
I know. It's not even 100% planned that way. It's just the way it is. And then, obviously, my number 1, if you know me or have met me or follow me on any form of social media or have listened to this podcast before, number 1 is, of course, The Matrix, which is such a perfect movie. I just saw it last week? Yeah, last week. In theaters for the 20th anniversary, in Dolby at AMC. And I spent the whole movie just being like, it's just so great. Like, I wasn't even paying attention to the story because I've seen it a million times. So I was more just like, oh, look at that scene. Oh, look at that, the music cue that came in. Like, oh, that performance there. Oh, look at the stunts and all. It is by far, I wouldn't say by far, because I do have the dichotomy with my favorite movies, like you mentioned. It is that one, The Matrix and Jerry Maguire are by far my favorite movies. But The Matrix is the movie, and I sort of said this briefly on a Stardust video that I did on the Stardust app, so follow me on there if you're at all interested in downloading that and getting my reactions to movies right after I see them. But it is, if going to the movies it's like going to church, like it is for some of us cinephiles, where it's just a huge like cultural education and things like that, then The Matrix Seeing The Matrix was the experience that where I like walked out of there and like, that's it, I've accepted, the Lord and Savior into my heart or whatever. I've been saved. Was my salvation. The Matrix was that eye-opening moment for me, in the way that something like, I think it was Signs for Chris Stuckman, and like all the, if you love movies the way that I love movies, the way that a lot of people that talk about movies on podcasts or write about movies so much, there is usually, I have a theory that there's usually one movie that was the film that expanded your mind, freed your mind, like in The Matrix, to seeing movies as, yeah, that was fun, distraction, whatever, it's funny, look, crazy shit happening, ha ha ha, I'll go about my life, to like, no, this is my life. This is like what I'm into. This is my thing. Look at the art in the film, look at the way it's shot, look at the way it's framed, look at the way that it's influenced by all these things, and look at everything it's trying to say, and all the themes and the symbolism and the metaphors and blah, 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 and all that. And The Matrix was the movie that really made me realize, wait a minute, this is not only something to just be entertained by, there's an art behind this, there's a style behind this, there are people behind this thinking about this project in such excruciating detail that they're everything is a reference to something else. Everything is inspired by something else. Everything is influenced by what has come before, and everything that you're seeing on screen is 100% deliberate. And I think that's true of some of the best films. And The Matrix is the movie that made me realize what movies could be, not only the artistry behind it, but also the power and the impact they could have on your life. Where I watched it a few months ago to talk about it with Freddie for the podcast for the 100th episode, which was his choice, not mine, for his favorite movie also. And we talked about it for 2 hours. At the time, I was splitting them into 2 episodes, but we had talked about it for so long that I had bonus content that I posted on Patreon. It's just it's that movie for both of us. And for a lot of people, I feel like it is kind of to this generation what Star Wars was to the generation before. I mean, Star Wars still obviously has an impact and still inspires people and still is a lot of people's favorite movie. But I feel like The Matrix made a lot of people want to be filmmakers, want to look more deeply into film than just, that was fun, but I'm going to live my life now. It's more than just a passing trend or a passing fad. It's a story that sticks with you and that inspires you every time you watch it, and makes you want to go out and be the best version of yourself, and become a freelance writer like I am, or start a podcast like I am, and open your mind to the possibilities of what is out there outside of the little box of what you're supposed to do and who you're supposed to be and all that other stuff. And that's why watching that movie every single time, including last week, was really like a powerful emotional experience for me, because it says all of that and infinitely more. There's constant. It's just a constant source of inspiration for me, from a visual level, from a storytelling level. And I really love the Wachowskis, and I'm elated at the thought of a possible Matrix 4 with Lana Wachowski directing it. And definitely, if you want to hear more of my gushing thoughts about The Matrix and more complicated thoughts on the sequels, I'm totally planning on doing a episode at some point with Jackson Smith, who's been on the show before. We talked about 8th grade. We talked about Revenge of the Sith. He was the person I talked to for 2 hours about Revenge of the Sith. God bless him for talking to me for that movie about 2 hours. But yeah, we're definitely planning a discussion on the Matrix sequels sometime in the near future. So Kai, after that long spiel about how much I love the Matrix, what the hell? Where's the Matrix in your top 5?
I mean, I like the Matrix, and that was very well said.
Thank
very
you.
articulate.
And you could tell,
you could tell how passionate Rob is here about the Matrix. And I actually didn't see the Matrix until 2007.
At least I didn't have to show it to you. You saw it a
Yeah,
couple years
I
beforehand.
saw it actually with my sister and my brother-in-law after they moved me into my first place on my own. We kind of wanted just to decompress after moving, so I think we went to Blockbuster, and
Had they seen it at that point?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Because it was, not to quote Anchorman, it was kind of a big deal.
Yeah, no, because I remember being in, I remember when it came out, and there were people in my sophomore class that were talking about this movie with the teacher, and they're like, "What is The Matrix?" And I'm like, "What?" And it's, rated R, and Hardy was explaining that I didn't have a car and the means to go to see these movies, and I just wasn't. I don't know. I guess there's other things that I wanted to see, and I guess maybe I thought it would be like too weird, too high level.
I mean,
not interesting.
Yes, kind of not interesting, but the other stuff, yes.
And even now, watching it, there are scenes in that movie that are just uncomfortable.
Really?
Unpleasant.
Okay,
like,
such
like
as?
when he comes out of his
Oh, when he's being born?
yeah
For the
his
first
room.
time?
That's so
Basically?
it's so gross and
It's all gooey, and it's like
visual,
the thing down his throat. It's like, yeah.
That's intense.
It's horrific.
That's
is what
probably
it is. It's
one of
supposed
the
to be
reasons. That's
horrific.
probably one of the reasons it's rated R.
Yeah.
But people still quote red pill, blue pill, and I sometimes feel like it's a blue pill where you just get to stay in the
Right.
Matrix, right?
Stay in-
I sometimes
yeah.
feel like I want to just stay in the Matrix because
You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe.
yeah, and it's not. And like I read these BuzzFeed articles like, oh, when there was a glitch in the Matrix, so they're still talking about it, and I still think about them like, oh my gosh, is there a glitch right now for the Matrix? And because I mean, how are we supposed to know that it's not that we're not in the Matrix? I mean,
How
are we supposed to know
real?
that it's not a documentary?
Yeah.
We're not the chosen one.
He says more. I mean, obviously, not that I would have to have seen it recently to be able to quote it, obviously. But Morpheus says to Neo, "What if this?" Neo is touching the mirror, and he's like, "This can't be." He's like, "Be what? Be real?" He's like, "What if you were having a dream and you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the real world, the dream world, from the real world?" Basically, and it's blurring those lines between what's real, what isn't, and what's possible, and all that stuff.
And I
think
feel
that's
like
fascinating to me.
the Matrix was definitely a catalyst for a lot of other movies.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like take Charlie's Angels. I mean, they're doing all these fight sequences that are very Matrix-like.
Wire work.
Yeah, and that's just not possible. But with the Matrix, they make it possible because you're in dream world, you're in your world. Inception wouldn't have happened without the Matrix. Because everything you just said is Inception.
Yeah.
That's what Inception's about. It's the dream world and how if you don't wake up.
It's very thematically related, I would say, for sure. And I mean, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that a lot of the stuff that the Matrix touches on is also touched on in another movie that came out the year before called Dark City, which was filming around the same time as the Matrix, so they actually used some of the same like sets and things like that in the Matrix as in Dark City. And I talked with Jeff Johnson.
I remember
with
you guys
Jeff
talking about
Johnson
this.
on the podcast about Dark City, which is his favorite movie. So it does feel kind of like a distant cousin to the Matrix. So people that are interested in the Matrix and like me have seen it 5 million times and or love it as much as I do. Definitely check out Dark City if you haven't seen it. It's more of a cult classic. It was like the black sheep. It was like the unappreciated younger sibling of the Matrix, I guess, in a way.
Is it like
The black sheep.
Armageddon versus Deep Impact?
Well,
Armageddon
Deep
got
Impact
more-
I think Deep Impact is probably a better movie.
But Armageddon got more press.
Yeah,
got more. It was more of a blockbuster than Deep Impact, but they're basically
Right.
the same movie.
Kind of. Well, there's one's a comet, one's an asteroid, but yeah, essentially they have a very similar premise.
Okay, I don't know the difference between a comet and an asteroid, so there's that.
You're just part of the problem, aren't you?
Exactly, I am. But that happened a lot.
The twin movies.
That still happens.
I think there is an entire podcast. Actually, I forget, but somebody wrote into the Slash Filmcast, which is a great show that everybody who's listening to this probably already listens to because it's super popular. That somebody wrote into the Slash Filmcast, I think, who has a podcast on twin movies. So Deep Impact and Armageddon, Ants and A Bug's Life, Dante's Peak and Volcano, all those kind of famous ones. White House Down and Olympus Has Fallen. I think
Wasn't there
kind of
San Andreas and something else?
probably it was probably another movie with The Rock, honestly. And I think The Matrix and Dark City kind of almost sort of qualify as that. There's about a year in between them, but and ultimately the plots of both of them are very different. The realities behind what's happening in each of those movies is very different, but I think they do start out from a similar place of like, yo, what the fuck is happening? What's going on? Because that was my reaction the first time I saw The Matrix. I was 16. I was used to, the Nutty Professor. I love that. The Eddie Murphy one, obviously. The Batman Forever. I love that. Ace Ventura and The Mask. There's like kind of very broad movies that were pretty mainstream, pretty straightforward. I saw The Matrix. I was like, wait, what? He's in a computer? This is real? I don't understand. Like, I almost didn't understand. Like, it blew my little 16-year-old mind. And I think I used that exact same sentence in the Matrix episode because that's the easiest way to describe it. It lifted a veil of, hey, this is what movies are. Welcome. Join us. Come with me and you'll see a world of pure imagination. It was like that kind of thing. So obviously my number one was going to be The Matrix. But I'm pretty sure you have some honorable mentions that we haven't mentioned. Would you like to throw those out there before we end this episode that's gone longer than we planned?
It always happens.
I mean, but 1989, we spent as much time talking about the year as we did the movies. So that's good. That's what we need. I needed to get the 99 out of my system.
So, honorable mentions. Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me.
Not a great movie, but one that I think we both have kind of a nostalgic soft spot for. I had that written down here as well. I didn't think you would.
I know. I figured you wouldn't think that.
Of course, I love. Yeah, I had the. Yeah, I was.
See, I'm unpredictable.
You are.
You know my first two.
You can't
favorites.
steal the unpredictable thing. That's Justin Beck of the Ditzy Comic Podcast. That's his thing, going off the rails and stuff. So don't steal his. That's his brand.
All right.
You're be brave, be bold, be brave. Stay in your lane, Kai.
So I put Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me, because I did not see Austin Powers, The Man of Mystery, International Man of Mystery in the movie theater.
Neither did I.
In fact,
Nobody did.
Don't even know. I think I may have actually only seen Austin Powers, Spy Who Shagged Me first, and I saw it with my friend, and I just remember laughing so hard. And if anybody knows me, I don't laugh out loud. I'm not an LOL person. I make people laugh. I don't laugh. But this movie made me laugh a lot because it was just so silly. And
it wasn't the part where he drinks poop, is it?
No.
I don't like that scene. Actually, I think that's probably one of the
it
weakest
was in the
jokes.
tent at the end.
Oh, the tent?
Yeah, and then the scene where soon after that where they're like, oh, got some balls. And
There's a gerbil in your bag. Yeah. How did that get in there? I don't know.
And then the scene with the rock, the spaceship or whatever, the ship.
The moon?
His
moon base?
The balls. Oh, get your hot dogs or something like that. And
it looks like Jim Vance Johnson.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
Yeah. So I just laughed out loud, and that movie got a lot of press too. And so that came out this summer,
right around our birthdays,
right
like
before
late June,
like right before.
Isn't that like a June movie? Wasn't like
I think it was like
birthdays,
the last movie I saw before I moved to.
Because both of our birthdays
Melbourne,
are in late June, I should say.
And I remember seeing Heather Graham on the cover of Entertainment Weekly, and I'm just like, oh my god, she's so beautiful, and just they were entertainment outlets for talking about this movie a lot. And my friend, the friend I saw it with really liked Austin Powers. She saw the International Man of Mystery, and so I went with her. And yeah, I just thought it was really funny, and clearly it was a very pivotal movie for comedies, because then Mike Myers did a third one,
which was not as good, unfortunately, even though I love it in a weird way. But I was one of those people, the stereotypical Austin Powers fan who didn't see it in theaters, rented it, fell in love with it, rented it again, bought it previously viewed on VHS when that was a thing.
From Blockbuster?
Probably. It was,
I don't think Amazon was a thing yet.
No, Amazon wasn't a thing. No, previously viewed like in the store, like and it wasn't Blockbuster, I don't think. It might have been Hollywood Video or one of the other ones. And then got it on DVD and then saw the second one, and that whole thing. That was my thing. So I was obsessed with Austin Powers for the longest time, and I was kind of obnoxious about it. So I think we'll let you do your honorable mentions because you probably don't have as many as me. Do you have any other ones?
I have two more.
Okay, do your two. Go.
Okay. So my other honorable mention is Election. So I saw this movie in 2004, and it really put Reese Witherspoon on the map. I mean, she had Cruel Intentions and Election the same year,
back, yeah.
and she got nominated for a Golden Globe, actually, for Election. And it's a dark comedy, and she plays the character Tracy Flick, who is like ambitious and is kind of power hungry, and like it just tells it's a dark teen comedy, and it's just like kind of tells a tale of her wanting to be elected student body president, and Matthew Broderick is in it, and he kind of like despises her, and it's like Rob has said that the movie's kind of uncomfortable, and he's right. I mean, it's a dark comedy, and there's it's sort of an uncomfortable viewing in some instances. I don't even know if I would say it's funny. But but it's just kind of an interesting fork in the road for Reese Witherspoon's career, because she had even said that movie, that role that she played, made casting directors uncomfortable, that they didn't even want to cast her anymore, because they're just like, oh my gosh, you're like creepy and weird. And she was saying in her interview that they wanted her to more play nice and sweet, sweet and agreeable. And Tracy Flick is none of those things. But yeah, it's just, I had to put it on there, and I have not seen it in a long time. And Rob and I actually haven't even watched this together, and it's on our list of to watch. But we definitely need to watch it again.
I think I'd have a much better appreciation for it now, like being more interested in politics and understanding the satire that the movie's going for. I also have been, I don't really know if I 100% gel with Alexander Payne's movies. He also did like Sideways and things like that. That's why I mentioned at the top of the show, that's one, like Being John Malkovich, which I also liked but didn't necessarily love, that I feel like I would appreciate on a much different level now. So I'm glad you brought up Election, because I think that's definitely a movie that it's on the cover of this book prominently, in the very kind of centrally, that I think a lot of people would bring up as why 99 was such an interesting year for movies. So what was your last honorable mention? And then I'll run through mine real fast.
My last honorable mention is Go. Rob kind of touched upon this one briefly, that it was a teen movie in 1999 with She's All That and 10 Things I Hate About You, Cruel Intentions. And so same thing. I saw this movie in 2004, and it just was just like so weird and kind of something that I hadn't really ever seen before. I mean, this movie is about drug use. It's got drug dealers. It's got like raves, and pretty much none of the characters in it are endearing, except for Katie Holmes' character. She's like the only one that is likable and is still trying to be a good person, but the rest of them are absolutely terrible. But back at the time, Jay Moore was in it, and he was kind of starting to become a big deal. Scott Wolf was in it, and Scott Wolf was in Party of Five around that time. I mentioned Katie Holmes, and Timothy Oliphant was in that movie, and he was all like a dirty, scuzzy drug dealer. And now he's been on Santa Clarita Diet. It's a completely different role, and he's actually really funny. But it's just a weird movie, and just about a world that I don't know anything about, and kind of the hijinks that these teenagers, young adults, go through in an evening, and you're kind of not really rooting for any.
It's kind of, it feels like almost like a teen movie version of a Tarantino story.
Yeah.
It feels very. Yeah. There was, after Pulp Fiction came out in '94, there was a lot of films that were very heavily inspired by Tarantino. Boondock Saints and this movie, and like a lot of films that were trying to deal with that, super stylized delving into the underworld of criminals and drug dealers and killers and blah, 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 and how, sort of delving, exploring that world from a, quirkier perspective and not taking it as seriously. So I think Go is definitely a part of that. I have many.
You were not a big fan of Go, though.
Not really. I have.
And you saw it as an adult. So
Yes.
it's
So it's not like I need to revisit. I'm just like, not for me. It's okay. Again, favorite, not best. So I had a crap ton of honorable mentions, so I'm going to run through them, I guess, pretty fast. Not in any particular order. Fight Club, I talked about with the famous Ashley Grant. I already mentioned that.
And now you like it more because you
I
saw
like it more.
again.
Well, I like it more because, one, because I saw it again. Two, because I talked about it with a good friend of mine for over an hour. And we dissect a lot of what appeals to her about it, and then I can appreciate that more, and yeah. So the value of watching a film as an adult versus as a teenager is like, I don't know, I don't understand what this is. I think that's a big standout for me. Eyes Wide Shut, which I just recorded an episode on, you'll hear later in the fall with Albert Lanier. Really interesting movie. Kubrick's final. Tom Cruise really out of his element normally. Not in the traditional leading man. I think that was a really interesting movie to talk about. It has a lot to say about sexuality from both the male and female perspective. So I had a great conversation with him about that, Albert Lanier. The Mummy, 1999, obviously, 1999, obviously, with Brendan Fraser. Rachel Weisz was a revelation in that movie. I think it hits the nice cross section between being a horror movie, being kind of a swashbuckling adventure, but being fun all the way through. There's been a lot of people reporting lately that Brendan Fraser is like, I'd be down for a fourth movie because they did The Mummy Returns, which I hated, and The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, which I also kind of hated.
Never even heard of that.
There's the third one with him and Maria Bello. Rachel Weisz was like, I don't want to do that, which was a wise decision. And Jet Li is the villain. Not a good movie. Not worth your time. Don't bother. Neither is The Mummy Returns.
I only saw The Mummy Returns. Well, before you showed me The Mummy.
Right.
I thought it was cute.
I hated it. I thought it was terrible. I love The Mummy, and I thought that was
Brendan
garbage.
Fraser did run in the 90s.
No, he was like a heartthrob in The Mummy, like straight up. Like he was very Harrison Ford-esque. He's very Indiana Jones style in that movie, and I think, we both like him in a lot of movies. I think you like Bedazzled more than I do, but it's kind of emerged as like a mini cult classic among some people. And I think he's a very versatile actor, so I'd love to see him.
He was also in Blast from the Past the same year.
Did you see that?
No.
Oh, that was a good. My mom likes that movie. Actually, did that come out 2000 or 99?
I had the poster for the movie.
Okay.
I don't know how I even got it.
Was it because you were working at Blockbuster or something? You're like, hey, it's sitting here. Okay, I'll take it. Brendan Fraser.
No, I had it before I was working. I had it when I lived in my other house.
Fair enough. Galaxy Quest, hilarious movie. Obviously, parody of Star Trek and a lot of sci-fi films. It's that kind of Three Amigos, Bugs Life, Tropic Thunder situation of, oh, this is all pretend, right? Oh, shit, no, it's not. And Tim Allen's great in it. Sigourney Weaver's great in it. Alan Rickman, R.I.P., is great in it. Sam Rockwell, Tony Shalhoub, Missy Pyle, Enrico Colantani. Just a laundry list of great actors in that film. Really, really funny comedy. Love that. In keeping with that theme, Analyze This. Harold Ramis's follow-up to Multiplicity, which we just watched. I just showed you for the first time. Robert De Niro poking fun at all the gangster roles he's played. Billy Crystal, who co-wrote the screenplay, if I'm remembering correctly. Really funny movie. I don't know if it's some of the moments, some of the gags obviously don't really hold up. There's a lot in the 90s. You mentioned about kind of the attitude towards gay people in the 90s. That's always a big problem when we watch. We talked about it on the Ace Ventura episode. We were not sensitive at all toward the LGBTQ community in the 90s. They were always the butt of the joke, and that is unfortunate. I'm glad that we've come a long way since then, but I think you see a lot of that in a lot of the 90s comedies specifically, and it always sticks out to me as a sore thumb. It's kind of cringe-inducing. The Green Mile, which you haven't seen. Actually, I haven't. I watched it on VHS or wherever I rented it from. I've had it on DVD for probably almost 20 years, sitting up there. Haven't watched it, honestly, because it was a very draining experience, and it's 3 hours long. But since we're straight up in the Stephen King assance, I might dust that off and show it to you at some point. Michael Clark Duncan is amazing in it. Again, R.I.P. Oscar nominated for his performance as John Coffey. Tom Hanks is great in it. It's a very powerful movie, and I think it is very much a spiritual successor to The Shawshank Redemption in a lot of ways. Because again, based on Stephen King, set in a prison, same director, Frank Darabont. So we'll definitely need to get to that at some point.
Like rival for the top, would it?
To the
Of
what?
my list.
I don't think so. I don't know if you'd relate to it the same way.
I couldn't kick Shawshank out.
I wanted to. I mentioned earlier about a lot of romantic comedies in the '90s and how that was kind of the golden age for them. So I wanted to throw out a mention to Notting Hill, which I thought was a really cute movie. Julia Roberts, Hugh Grant. You know, she's a movie star. He's a regular guy. How's this gonna work? I think Rhys Ifans is really funny as the supporting role, the roommate of Hugh Grant's character. And that's just a really sweet, fun movie. And I felt like I needed to throw out some romantic comedy that came out in '99 that stood out to me, and that was probably one of the better ones. The movie
did like super well.
It did
too.
like over 100 million, which back then was impressive.
Was that the same year as Runaway Bride too?
Yeah, I didn't like that movie at all.
It was like the summer of Blockbuster of Julia Roberts.
Yeah, it was like one was like May or like early June, and one was like August or late July, or like around there. It was like a couple months apart. And that was, of course, a couple years after My Best Friend's Wedding, which I think is a better movie than both of them. But The Iron Giant, which our daughter seems really interested in. Whenever she looks at the cover of this book, she's like, I want to see that. I'm like, all right, I'll show it to you eventually. You still haven't seen The Iron Giant, so we definitely...
Yes, I have.
Did we show you The Iron Giant?
Yeah.
I did show you?
Yeah, like earlier this year. Or
oh, okay,
year.
so
Yeah,
it was recent.
I actually have a...
Oh, on Letterboxd?
Yeah.
Follow us both on Letterboxd. So I'm going to keep talking. The Iron Giant, great movie. Brad Bird's directorial debut. Of course, he went on to do Incredibles, Ratatouille, Mission Impossible, Ghost Protocol, and the underrated Tomorrowland. Not a great movie, but an interesting movie that's worth checking out, especially for kids. And lastly, the last one that I had written down here. I told you I had a lot of them. That's why I'm kind of talking much faster. I should have had coffee instead of wine. I would be able to speed this up even more. So, The Sixth Sense by M. Night Shyamalan, of course. One of the best twist endings that still holds up on repeat viewings. Understated work by Bruce Willis. Haley Joel Osment, still one of the best child performances of all time. Toni Collette, great aesthetics, great cinematography, the score, everything. It's a really classy, well done Hitchcockian thriller. It's not my favorite Shyamalan. I still prefer Unbreakable, but I think it is definitely up there. And it's actually another one that I haven't seen in a long time. I need to go back and watch it. It is on Netflix, so I should probably go back and watch Sixth Sense again. Go ahead. You look like you want to say something about it.
We watched it May 22nd, 2018.
Okay, so it's only been a few months. So
2018.
Oh, last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So my memory isn't as short as I thought it was. So that was 1999 in film. Is there any final thoughts? A lot of great movies, a lot of interesting movies, very wide variety of films out there that were making an impact creatively and financially and artistically.
Yeah, and maybe the thing with 1999 too was that it was also kind of like the independent film.
Boom! Yeah,
like you didn't have to have as much money.
I didn't mean to do another, but
to put film out there, because with the Blair Witch, I mean, I'm not a fan. You didn't see it, but that was an independent film that became a sleeper hit.
I wonder if
people are still talking about it.
I wonder if you'd feel differently if you saw it now.
No, I wouldn't.
Wow.
No, I don't like that movie.
You don't like found footage in general, I think.
No, I don't.
Though. Yeah.
And also the problem was I saw that movie after everybody was talking about it, and I just felt like it was overhyped. It gave me a headache.
I mean, I saw Hardcore Henry in theaters like a year or so ago, and that gave me a headache. So I understand the headache thing with those kind of found footage films. So not to harp on this, but The Matrix, I think, is another movie that maybe you don't love as much as me because you didn't see it when it came out. You saw it after it was parodied in Scary Movie and Shrek and all these other films, and you're like, okay, whatever. Why is it such a big thing? And that's your whole take on a lot of pop culture that you don't get to in the moment.
Oh yeah,
I saw it opening weekend. I was like, "What? This is amazing!"
I love being contrarian.
You do.
I do.
It's a character flaw.
It's like my job.
So, any other thoughts on 99? I'm glad we finally followed through on this. We were going to do it in July, which would have been more of a year since our 98 one, but posting it on 99 I think is makes a lot more sense. So I pitched to Kai the idea about doing another 90s throwback episode next year, maybe looking back 25 years to 1995, which I think would be interesting. There's probably a few movies that I should see before we do that, so I can make sure they make my top 5, they're worthy of it and such. But this was a lot of fun. Kai, I'm glad we talked about 1999 in depth, much longer again than I meant to.
And it was really, it's actually funny that it did go on for a long time, because a lot of these movies you mentioned, you had talked about in your podcast already.
I know. I was like, more here, but let me talk about it for 5 minutes. So thank you so much for coming on the Crooked Table podcast, Kai. I have an idea for what we want to do in the next month or so, something we can post, but we'll talk about. We sort of mentioned it briefly before off mic, but thanks for being here and taking time out of your Saturday night to talk about the movies of 1999 with me.
I was also just hanging out with you anyway.
That's true. You're stuck here. You're like, damn it. I have to talk on a mic, sure, whatever. So that'll be all for the Crooked Table podcast this week. I've been Rob.
And I'm Kai.
Might as well feel like I should do a little bit of old school throwback and say roll credits.
If you're interested in joining me on the show to chat about one of your favorite films, head on over to crookedtable.com/guest. Or you can consider supporting the show at patreon.com/crookedtable. Of course, you can always find more podcasts, reviews, videos, and other movie-related goodies over at crookedtable.com. Until next time, this has been the Crooked Table Podcast, and I've been Rob.
This has been a production of crookedtable.com. All rights reserved.
CROOKED.